Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Warhammer Weekly. All right, if it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer. I am your host, Vince Venturella. I am here, as always, with my special guest, Chester Mansfield. Chester, say hi.
Hey guys.
And as well, joining us tonight is the one and only, live from the UK at 3 in the morning, staying up very late, Mr. Remington Steele.
Guess who's back, Jiggers?
It's good to have you back, sir. All right. So let's not waste any time. We got a lot to cover and not a lot of time to cover it. So let's jump right in. Week in review.
Vince, do you want to open the show talking about? Sorry to interrupt you. The special event that we're going to have later this.
That's a good point. Yes. Yeah, that's a good. Thank you for reminding me. Yes. So as we mentioned during a previous show, when you order more than $65 worth of stuff from Games Workshop, they currently have their Willy Wonka golden ticket thing going on. So that's right, folks. We're going to build some anticipation. Tom happened to order from Games Workshop, and what does he have here? Oh, it's a fresh, unopened envelope. A potential golden ticket. Ooh. So get ready to be disappointed later in the show. We'll all get to see Tom be sad. That'll be very exciting. So yes, we'll open that at the end of the show. So let's jump right into our week in review. So first things first, we had the U.S. Masters last weekend, and I haven't seen much from it, but big news as far as I'm concerned. Who knows what army won the U.S. Masters? Remington, go ahead.
Well, I've watched all the prequel videos where they discuss all the armies.
Yes.
And one of them in particular, our friend Once Bitten, said as the one to watch was in fact a Tomb King's Law of Undeath army, and I believe it won the tournament.
You are correct.
Yep.
Absolutely. TK taking it. Now, yes, it was a bit unusual. Use Law of Undeath, but you can't take it away from this army right here. That's all I'm saying. Look, okay, whatever. It's TK, all right. Like don't people say they didn't earn it because they use Law of Undeath. That's ridiculous. It's Tomb King's army.
I haven't watched any of the reports. I mean, I watched some of the preliminary shows, but I mean, if I understand it right, the Lore of Undeath, even being quite powerful, was comped pretty hard, if I remember correctly. And does anybody know like what tactics he used? Was it something that he couldn't have done with another army?
I heard in the prequel show they mentioned that it had quite some success even before the tournament by his endgame, where he just brings on these units in the end that kind of swamp people, and it seems maybe he kept using that tactic.
Well, if anybody out there in YouTube land watching has a link to any, I don't know if anybody's put together battle reports or has live footage or anything like that. I hunted around but couldn't really find anything from 2015, so from the most recent one. So if you want to, anybody please include a link below so we can all go watch it and we can share with the community so we can all go see those games. Any of the TK games or others, share any U.S. Masters content. It sounded like a lot of fun. Everybody I heard talking about it seemed to have a great time. Once Bitten looked like he did pretty well. I looked at the results. I know he's going to put up his battle report, so I don't want to spoil anything about how he did. But congratulations to him for getting in there and having a lot of fun with the Bretts. I also wanted to do a quick little special shout-out to Jeff Swan and Mark Cox of Lone Hammer, both of whom were predicted to lose their first game, and both of whom soundly won their first game. And perhaps more importantly, Jeff Swan was playing Slaanesh Demons, and Mark was playing Skaven, two armies very close to my own heart. Sitting behind me here, you can just kind of see the little Slaaneshis hanging out on the edge. And so, congratulations to both of them for that round one win, and for, more importantly, beating the naysayers. That's what really matters. All right, so that was U.S. Masters. Other things, we had some new rumor stuff drop this week. And for that, Tom, would you like to take some of the rumors, and then, Remington, feel free to jump in if you've got an opinion on anything.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So the big issue, or the big release that came out this week, is the the box set, more information about the 9th edition box set potentially came out. Again, this is all, take it with a grain of salt, but it seems like we're getting a number of rumors that are all kind of coming from different sources, and they're all pointing towards similar things. So I think that may be why there's some traction here. So the box set, just a quick rundown. It looks like the rumors have it that the results of the end times are going to be directly reflected in the armies on the other side of 9th edition, and we'll have the return of my Tim Foyle hat section with this show, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about that in a little bit. But supposedly the 9th starter is going to follow the similar setup to the Stormclaw type boxes that we've seen recently, where it's mostly existing minis with just a handful of unique hero models that will be included in the boxes. It looks like the starter box will be forces of, like, quote unquote good guys or forces of light versus chaos, in some type of loose fashion. And we've known about this. Harry had reported on this. A number of other rumor mongers had been reported on this. But what's significant is that we actually have numbers or unit types that are here, which was really surprising. For the forces of chaos, they said that it'll be 2 warriors of chaos units, 1 demon unit, 1 chaos war machine unit, and then 2 lords. One of those lords is going to be a unique. And then in the forces of light, and this is the real big surpriser, it'll be 2 infantry, 2 empire or human infantry units, 1 empire cavalry unit, an elf unit, and a war machine, and it looks like it might be a dwarf war machine. So, and that'll be 2 lords, 1 will be mounted, 1 will be on foot.
Wow. I was going to say, Thomas, before you revealed the light side, I thought that sounded like a great idea. Anyone can get the starter box. You know, if they like that kind of one of those units, they can go with that army. And then it sounds like, oh, so boring, man. War machine, some empire, and probably a high elf regiment. Boring.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I'm wondering if it points towards what some of the factions are going to look like. And that's what perks my interest is. Like, is the light faction literally going to be elves, dwarves, and humans all, like, lumped together? And if that's going to be the case, I mean, I think that's going to be a pretty big, like, on what the factions look like, that's going to be a pretty big deal. So.
Well, as far as I can tell from reading the End Times books, the moot hasn't been touched yet. So perhaps there's enough halflings left in the world to add them to that box set.
Absolutely, get some halfling scouts out there.
Absolutely. In addition to that, supposedly in the box is also going to be 2 rule books, not just 1. And I'm getting a painting guidebook and an army list book. So my guess is that 2 rule books instead of just 1 is going to actually be the rumored mass battle, and then the rule book, and then a skirmisher rule book. The box set, additional information, the box set is supposed to be set in the former city of the Empire. The rumor person said, save your breath, it's not Mordheim, but it's going to be another Empire city. My vote's for Altdorf. I think it's going to be fantastic. The box set includes a campaign at a skirmish level and is firmly designed to introduce new players into the game at this smaller model count level. Look for an increased focus on heroes and characters in it, even in the skirmish game, and Warhammer Fantasy Battle 9th will kick off a new set of products that cover not only the surviving factions, but also new modular terrain pieces that support the game at all size levels and that reflect the new post-End Times world. And the estimated release date for that, never mind, that's the next guy. So is December on the terrain pieces.
Yeah, May for the box, right? That's the suspected red date in May.
No, actually, the 30K, there's a 30K Horus Heresy box in May that they're thinking is that was the rumored red date in May.
Oh, okay.
So right now, it looks like starter's probably a July release with 9th edition.
Gotcha. All right.
I'm guessing the Chaos War Machine will probably be the Skull Cannon / Chariot.
Maybe.
Could be something like that. It's an easy keep because it is still demons, and it's something good still in both armies, as it were, because you've got anything demons still goes 40K. So there's that across the board usefulness there of you'd wonder why they cut the line if they're already making it for 40K. They might as well keep it in fantasy. But I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff out of that. One, it points more toward the idea that we've got two levels of the game here, both a skirmish game and then a bigger fantasy game, so we don't have to have people who are worried that the big game's going away and Warhammer's becoming a skirmish game. No, we're just getting the best of both worlds. I loved Mordheim. We were talking about it right before we came on air, and it was always, I absolutely love the game, highly recommend it, and the idea to do a new version of it in a new ruined city, Altdorf or Middenheim or something, I think would be fantastic.
Nolan,
sure. I
like
think also. Oh, go ahead, Remington.
I like the idea that after 30 years of chaos knocking on the door of the old world, they finally conquered the old world, and now perhaps the forces of light are trying to get back in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's funny you say that because I think that really connects with what Tom wanted to talk about in the tinfoil hat segment. So why don't we just go into that? We'll use that. We'll use Remington's segue.
Okay, I do have another rumor from some Whisper of Truth came back and offered some interesting tidbits for 9th, but we can transition to that segue now. So,
extra warning. This is, yes, take this with an extra grain of salt, as this is Tom's tinfoil hat. This is based on absolutely nothing other than Tom's conjecture and thoughts. Go
absolutely.
ahead.
This part of the segment is where we transition to pure, unadulterated speculation. There is all I'm trying to do is rearrange the pieces that we have to present a picture of what might be coming. So I had some ideas floating around of how these pieces fit together. Turgle on the Warseer boards had a post that had kind of connected with some of the thoughts that I had, and so it kind of brought some stuff together. So here's what I'm thinking we could potentially see moving forward. So both Nagash, we know that both Nagash and Teclis and Lilith have suggested that the final victory is only possible with killing the Chaos Gods. That's been reiterated throughout the End Time series thus far. And I think that ultimately that's where this whole big picture is headed. Now, in a sense, I think that Archaon is only a speed bump towards that goal of killing the Chaos Gods. But when I say that he's a speed bump, Archaon is still going to be the culmination of the End Times. This is not to say that the conflict will be insignificant or that with End Times wrapping up and 8th edition wrapping up, it's going to be like 8th edition wrapping up is going to be the end times and is truly the end of the world as we knew it. But I think that what we're seeing in the End Times is realistically a prelude, like an issue 0 in comics, towards the 9th edition story that's unfolding. I think that what we're going to see is that with the End Times, the story wrapping up, the world is going to be consumed by chaos. Chaos is going to reign. It is going to win. We'll probably either see like the fabric of reality being ripped apart by the final conflict, or the Chaos Gods entering the world and basically like dissolving the world in chaos or something. And I think that one way that this can spin out is that Archaon ends up being beat up by the Avengers or the Incarnate group, and the Incarnates forge into the warp to pursue the Chaos Gods. I think that what we're going to see is the magic of the Incarnates are going to serve as something like anchors or something like that. That they are what create these bubble worlds that have been rumored, and so it's their channeling of the chaos magic that creates this stability around them as a unit and as individual like lords to provide these bubbles to survive in the midst of the warp. And I think that this could end up spinning out a couple of different ways. They could hold portions of the world together, and some notable places that we recognize still may exist in a meaningful way. I think that this is probably how the skirmish game and the ruins of the big city will tie in. 9th edition also seems to keep similar themes of what we've seen, but the key here is that it flips the game's lean on its head. Up until this point, we've seen chaos has always been this overwhelming force, but they've always been the one on the offensive, always pushing in. And now what this does is, with this turn of events, chaos still maintains this overwhelming nature, but now it's the good guys who are on the offensive. If you're familiar with like the D&D 4th edition idea, I'm talking the story of D&D 4th edition, not like the gameplay. One of the big things was points of light campaign, and the idea is that the world is a big scary place, and there are these points of light and points of hope. And I think that what we may see now is that the good guys are the ones on the offensive. and we don't know what the factions look like per se, and it's hard. But at the same time, it's not hard to imagine that some of the Incarnates aren't going to stay together. Some will stay together while others break off. We've already seen hints of that with Nagash, and we've seen hints like I could see Nagash breaking off, and I could see Grimgor breaking off, and then leaving this alliance of light together that we've already seen of elves, dwarves, and humans. And it kind of makes sense of the various rumors that we have, and makes sense of the various like wild person rumors, and then also the undead faction rumors. So those are just some
great ideas, man. I mean, I've heard the bubble theory a few times before. I think MC1 Game has gone into it in detail. Now, I like it when you say points of light rather than bubble worlds, because bubble world sounds a bit pansy to me. It's a world of blood and ruin. They don't want any bubbles anywhere. So, light in darkness, much better. I've seen some pages of the Archeon book, and I've posted those on the Google Plus page, and Grimgor is featured as the incarnate of beasts.
Yep.
So it looks like the orcs are going to have a big mashup with chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that and you're right. I mean, clearly Grimgor, very potent. I love the mention of ogres in him. So clearly you see the mention of the ogres getting pulled in with O and G for O and G. But I think that what's interesting about what you're proposing, Tom, to me, and what I hope comes to pass out of that, if anything, is the idea that one of the basic paradigms of the world gets shifted slightly. So the forces of order, the good guys, have never, ever, you said it exactly right, been on the offensive. They've always just been trying to survive. They've never been winning. They've always just been staving off losing. That's it. That's the story of Warhammer. Staving off losing to the inevitable madness and destruction of the Chaos Gods. The Chaos Gods are always better. They're better than any of the human gods. Their troops are always better. Everything's better. Chaos is better. It's only because of a random fluke or little things that they can't actually win because they hate each other as much or whatever. But the idea that the paradigm could be changed and we could have the good guys on the offense, and not to say that Chaos isn't still a potent threat, it's exactly that they are such a potent threat that makes the good guys under the leadership of the Incarnates go, all right, forget this, we've been sitting on our heels too long, time to go whoop some ass. So rally up, let's do this. Enough of this talking about it, let's get it done. We almost just lost everything. And the story of 9th edition becomes the story of that war. So it's not like we expect to see an End Times book where the Chaos Gods get their faces or their teeth kicked in. It's that the story of 9th edition is the story of a long battle against Chaos where the good guys are finally on the offense. And I think that rumored sort of faction of light or whatever, it does speak to that to some degree. And that seems pretty exciting to me.
Absolutely, Vince. And further to add to that, the nature of chaos will in itself consume itself. And once they reach the hour of victory, they're going to end up fighting against each other for ultimate dominance.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you can't pull that card, right? Especially if the Ever-Chosen goes down somehow. There was a new video, so Warhammer TV released their first spoiler. The first pre-order of Archeon will go on sale this Friday, if you're in the U.S. And so probably around sometime like 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you're inclined to pick up, I think the Bloodthirster is going to be what goes on pre-order this week. So if you're inclined to get that sexy new beast of rage-filled madness, then make sure you're logging on and hitting click before he's gone.
I think I saw that model priced at £70, which is about $100.
Sounds like
he's probably
Forge World prices.
Yeah.
Yeah, I expect he's going to be like Nagash price because he's probably about as big. He's up on like Fire or something, you know, just like Nagash was up on Ghosts. I don't favor him very much, but I think he's a beautiful model. I'm not particularly a great fan of the sculpt, but
yeah,
teach their own.
They've got some corn equivalent of Blight Kings as well.
Yeah, the 2 different units now, and honestly, I did like those guys. I thought those were good sculpts. So, and I think that all of that is speaking to a way the game is going. Lower the fig count, some more elite stuff. that we know that those are the movements going on underneath it. We'll still have our big armies, but we don't need to have as big of armies. We can get back to more of a 4th, 5th edition paradigm where I don't need 150, 200 troops on the table just to play a game. When even elite armies might have 100 troops on the table. It's just that's so much bigger than the old world was.
I think it's awesome, man. And Thomas, everything you said, spot on, man, brilliant. And I'm just so pleased that, there's a guy in my local game shop about a couple of years ago, walked in, I asked about fantasy, he shakes his head, yeah, they're going to scrap fantasy, yeah, it's a waste of time. And I've bumped into so many fantasy people that are slagging off Games Workshop, slagging off Citadel Miniatures, slagging off the game, yeah, it's shit, rather that's going to go out. And 35 years later, they're still going, and we're going to be on a 9th edition, and brand new models, brand new armies. It's
absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a testament. Like, the game has traction. It doesn't mean it's always going to... It's not something we keep under glass. It's a living organism. It's going to change, and you have to love it for what it is, and if it changes out of something you like, that's okay, because all those previous editions that they published are still there, and they're yours forever. And you can always have that game. No one takes it from you. I think you have to make the game your own in whatever way you can. And, it's silly to be angry at the models or the company or anything like that. Your hobby and all the hours you had painting and playing the game are still your fun and make up the great tapestry of your life. No one can take that away from you. So, be positive about that. I'm sure, like most people, I would love to play even more hours than I do, or spend more hours than I do playing Warhammer. But I value everyone I do, and getting to hang out with my friends and have that shared hobby, that's what we're here for. It's that aspect of it.
Yeah, man.
This community right now.
I am going to transition us so that we don't get off track too much.
That's fair.
You're welcome. I'm going to jump back to some rumors. Whisper of Truth, I reported on some of his stuff last week, and he had some real helpful pieces of information, and he actually jumped back on Daka Daka this week, and he actually affirmed a lot of the content of the another conversation that we reported between Harry and another individual on Warseer. Whisper of Truth responded to it after it had been yeah, whatever. I don't want to go through any of the communication stuff, but
that's
yes,
just
rumors.
The information would
yes,
be good.
Yes, and he affirmed a lot of what had been said last week, and he said that not only does it match up, but he said most of the characters in the next edition are basically going to be monsters or odd monsters. And so he said, like, look to figures like Glotkin, for example, or Nagash, or things like that, that they're going to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. They're going to be kind of bigger, splashier presence on the table. And then on top of that, he said that whereas smaller generic characters like just a generic runesmith are going to be like almost like unit upgrades. And so he's not sure exactly how it's going to work, but those things are just going to get upgrades within the unit themselves rather than being these independent autonomous characters like they currently are. One thing he says he knows for definite is that there's going to be a much larger emphasis on special characters, and because of this, he actually thinks that, for example, the Phoenix model may survive into the 9th because it's functioning in this space of character and monster and all of those things. He affirmed the reimagining of the Skaven, the large reimagining. He said that Chaos is going to hold closest ties to the game as we currently know it. So they're going to be. He suggests that they suggested that they're going to be hugely popular among the vets. Undead are going in for a quote unquote a bolded huge reimagining. He said that being led by the greatest necromancer ever basically means that they can create anything. And the main theme that's going to tie all of these units together are the swirly ethereal spirits that we've already begun to see in all of the undead units from the end times. And even before that, Coven Throne, for example, it was on the Coven Throne was on that list of units that is not getting scrapped.
Yeah. Awesome.
Exactly. And
what a great model that never used though, but brilliant.
It is a beautiful model. I mean, it gets used as the other version of it, but hey, I modeled as a Coven Throne. It's right there. Look at that.
Yep. And then finally, he said that he had mentioned that there was going to be less emphasis on gunpowder, and people said that means like less guns or less ranged. And he said that's not. He said yes and no. There's still going to be a lot of range. It's just a lot more of it's going to be magical. So he says think about like things like the Lizardman Solar Engine, the Skaven Warpstone weaponry, the Empire Luminarch, things like that that are more solidly magical. The other small spoilers that he had was that there's going to be a Tzeentch released later this year. That both he and Hastings have confirmed this. It's going to be 40K, but obviously they'll be bleed over with fantasy. And then on the starter, he said, as I mentioned, that the terrain's going to be coming, it looks like, potentially in December.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think more terrain sounds cool. I think that the Tzeentch would be neat. More bird stuff. That's fine. Tzeentch is fun. Change their ways. He's really techless. On one
of your videos, you purported a theory that said that Teclis was really a puppet of Tzeentch.
Yes, or Tzeentch himself the whole time. Yes, it would be like the best Scooby-Doo reveal ever. Just pulled off the mask.
Or I would say that Lilith is Tzeentch. Like,
Whatever.
if any of them is going to be Tzeentch, I think Lilith would be Tzeentch. But
I'm just saying I want Teclis. Teclis got kind of a big nose. There could be a bird beak hidden under there. I don't know. Like, if you look at the pictures, he's always got the feathers on his head. He's basically telling you Teclis, Tzeentch, Silent T. Huh? It all matches up.
That would the Bretonnians have been worshipping a false god all this time.
Well, twice. The Bretonnians get it a second time, so that's fine.
Yeah,
Nothing.
not only a false god, it ends up that Tzeentch has been pointing him there in that direction.
Wait a minute. What does Bretonia get from praying?
A ward save.
That's right.
Damn,
what does get automatically? Ward saves. I'm just saying, like the pieces are all falling in line. Clearly, Lilith, really Teclis, or really Tzeentch, and Teclis is the servant of Tzeentch. Probably just like the Changeling or Kairos' twin brother, three-headed Kairos.
One thing's for sure, guys, the amount of characters that are getting killed in the books, they've got to invent a whole bunch more.
Absolutely. I'm excited for a new story to begin, for new special characters to pull behind and stuff like that. I watched a lot of these special characters get made starting when I did. Not many of them were around when I started, and so, I've seen them run their course. I've been with them for 20 years. They've had a good run. Let's put them in the ground and get some new people up, get the next generation going. All right. Not that we couldn't talk about this all night, but I think we must bring this section to a close. More next week. Lots always to learn when we get into the middle of the Archeon pre-releases. All right, so let's do a quick hobby time. Remington, you are our guest, and I see you've been busily doing something with a paintbrush. So what's on your table?
I'm painting some Orc Ball Boys.
Oh yeah.
Very nice.
Nice.
Right there. I've been also painting some Savage Orcs. They're a lot of fun to paint. I think I must have about 8 armies now, all between 25 and 80% built, but I just can't get past that 80% line because my interest wanes and goes into another army. So
I don't think there's a problem with that. I think that's a good hobby to be in because then it means you always have something to go back to. I purposely leave part of every army I do not finished because then you can always, if you get the urge, you're like, man, I really want to work on that. You don't have to go and buy new models to go work on that army.
Exactly. I've seen, people, I've seen Sustainable Center and Malorian burn themselves out by just doing too much, and I don't want to do that. So I kind of hop between things. It keeps my interest.
Absolutely. Tom, what's on your hobby table?
Well, I finished the Rogue Idol that I posted to the PMP this last week. And now I have moved on to my squig herd that's actually a spider herd. So I'm base coating my squig herd, which is a bunch of spiders.
That's a wicked idea. A lot cheaper as well.
It's much cheaper, yes. So so it'll be it's going to be a neat project when it's done. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's really coming together.
On the subject of squigs, if anyone, Chris posted to the Warhammer YouTubers the army of the ONG player who won Best Painted at US Masters, and he has like a whole squig herd and squig hoppers that are all just, gorgeously painted. he has, giant 100 bricks of night goblins that each one looks like a character. Like the amount of time he took on these, like every night goblin has a checkerboard pattern, like a yellow and black taxi cab pattern around the edge of his hood. And checkerboards are not easy to do. They take a lot of time. So kudos to him. And I say that knowingly about checkerboards because, as usual, as I'll report on every week as I continue to be working on, I am working on Bretonnia. There we go. There we go. Oh, there's the latest knight that I just finished up today.
Are they metal?
No, these are all plastic. I mean, I have some of the metal grail knights as well, and metal questing knights and so on, but no, he's plastic.
I tell you, man, those questing knights, I love those models. That and the Grail Relique.
Yeah.
My favourite models,
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't care about how good the questing knights are. I just want to have them done just so they're a hobby.
The best models are the worst ones in the game.
It's so often, it's like completely 50-50. Because you got, on one hand, you got witch elves. Quite good. Absolutely stunning, beautiful models, right? And on the other hand, you've got questing knights. Maybe not as good. Probably in the not as good section, if I had to rate them. But that's all right. All right, so that's everybody's hobby time. Very good. Now let's move on to our feature segment. This week we return to the segment the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as a send-off today, and because of our special guest, Remington Steele, he of the Beastmen, we have decided to do a good, bad, and ugly, focused on the Beastmen. Talk about what's good, what's bad, and what is downright ugly. A lot of rumors are pointing to the fact that Beastmen may not be around in the next edition. Oh, Beastmen, we barely knew ye in your 2 books. Beasts of Chaos first, and then Beastmen. But that's all right. Even though they might have gotten the short end of the stick, just like they do in the fluff of the world, they're always getting the short end of the stick. They are the Bretonnians of the bad guys, the Beastmen. So, Remington, why don't we start with you? You're good, bad, and ugly for the Beastmen.
All right, man. I can't remember how I got into collecting Beastmen. Probably the Ungor models, which are beautiful sculpts. The weakest models there is out there, though. Let's look at the good. That has got to be the Raging Minotaur Champion, the Doom Ball. So much fun to play. You can make him a killing machine and also an armor-saving machine. Love playing that character. Absolutely love it. And it kind of makes the Beastmen worth playing and worth having giant brick of Ungors next to him, which can come in to mop up after the damage he deals. The bad, well, that's going to have to be the Jabberslife, because I just love this model so much, and I don't know how well you can see that.
Very good, actually.
Yeah, I love it. This is his special weapon. He flicks his tongue out and inflicts 1 strength 5 hit. That is going to decimate your army.
Get out of the way! That tongue is strong.
Let's look at his other special weapon, the Aura of Madness, where you have to take a leadership test within 12 inch, and if you fail it, you lose a wound by each point that you fail it. That is going to decimate your army.
Aren't you, if you're immune to psychology, you don't suffer that?
No. I don't know. The Jabberslife has black, poisonous blood. So the only good thing about the Jabberslife is, as you're killing him, he deals out wounds.
So the best use for him is to die.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And the ugly has to go to the Razor Gore.
Oh boy, yeah.
Some people hate this model. I kind of like it. I liked it even more when he ripped apart a whole unit of Glade Guard single-handedly. So they're my 3 for the Beastmen.
Very nice. I like it. All right, Tom. Now I know. I don't know if you've ever played against Beastmen. I don't know when you would have.
I haven't, in fact. So for the good, I'm gonna go 2 different directions. I mean, like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that have caught my eye. Like I've been thinking about putting together an Nurgle armory at some point, and with Legions of Chaos, I thought, I could do a bunch of like gores or whatnot, and it could be fun. It'd be a fun painting project and be interesting. And so I've had a little bit of exposure to them. Obviously, the Doom Bowl calls to me because I'm a power gamer, and so I like things that are powerful. But I will say that just from the look of a model, I really like the Cygor. I'm a real big fan of it. Vince has a really nice like Cygor painted four-armed monstrosity, and it's a nice model. I'm a fan. I'll be honest.
That's how Beastmen get you, Thomas. They get you with a beautiful-looking model that's obviously the worst model in the game.
But he can throw rocks.
It's true. It's true. I will say that just looking over some of the rules, despite the mockery that is the lore of the wild, as we've been talking about, we talked about earlier, the Traitorkin, like reading that, like is terrifying to me as a high elf player. Just knowing like all the things that I have mounted and all the things that are about to get murdered. Like the last thing I want to see is my Star Dragon with a lord on it, like turning around and murdering my general or whatnot. So I don't know. So that's what I would say is good. The bad is the army.
Nice.
And the ugly, it's amazing. We've already mentioned him, the Jabberlife, just because he's really ugly, like just really ugly.
Very nice. All right, for me, my good, bad, and ugly, I'm gonna go with good old-fashioned gore as the good. Are they great? No, but I like gore. I think that they're pretty decent. They react well with the various buffs, and they can turn hatred on pretty consistently. They can have two-hand weapons. They break up into a nice horde, and they do a pretty good job as a core troop. Like, they're not the best, but they're not the worst either. And as an offensive march across the board type of troop, they're, I think, a solid foundation to build off of. And I think people would view gore a lot more favorably if they had a stronger rare section or things that weren't 100, 150 point overcosted to support them. Because I think gore are solid if they get in the mix. The problem is that then the other guy has some other thing to bring into the fight to turn the table on the gore, and the gore have nothing to fight back with. In comes the Frost Phoenix nonsense and crap like that, and that's where the Beastmen lose out. The bad is, for me, the rare section. That is what I will say is the bad with the Beastmen. It's really just a tragedy because I love the look of almost every model in that rare section. The Gorgon and Cygor are both amazingly beautiful models. It's one of the first big models I painted when I got into like painting really heavy, and I love it to death. I think it's awesome. I modeled him with all 6 arms, by the way. And I figured if they're going to give me 2 extra arms, I'm not just wasting 2 arms. And, the Jabberlife, so cool, but they're all just overcosted or terrible for what they are. And then the ugly. The ugly is the Centaur, because it's ugly the person they make you. Because you look at the Centaur and you're like, these should be good, you can get drunk, this is going to be fun, and then you take them and you watch them fail over and over again, and you become a bad person as you curse the heavens, the gods, and your enemy, and your shitty, shitty troops for their failure. So that is why Centaur are the ugly.
That's beautiful. Why don't they have 2 wounds?
Why not a million things with them? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You got that spot on, man. I mean, the problem with the rare section being 275 points, Thomas, for that Cygor, means that you end up filling your army with loads of gores. And a lot of Beastmen armies that you see kind of look really similar. They don't have anywhere near the variety on the table just because of the expense of the rare.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's that lack of, exactly what you said, it's that lack of the rare to make the variants, right? Are you going If you think of like a Skaven army, just as a comparison, also another like horde tends to have a lot of big bricks of troops around. When you look at Skaven, they've got these other things. They might have a bunch of crappy troops or okay troops, but then they've got all these other things they're wheeling in. There's cannons and doom wheels spinning in and hell pits rolling around the table, and now the storm fiends, right? The rare section's interesting and varied. There's different ways you can build it. Whereas with gore, it's just the answer is generally more gore or some best gore.
Yeah.
And that's your choices.
So, given the new the Glock King book, given the extra options now that Beastmen have, the main one being, it's something I've always questioned, the fact that they now have marks. They have marks available to them. Being the children of chaos, you'd think, well, shouldn't they have always had that? But also, being the children, they're never allowed to grow up. You know, they're not even allowed to. So it's like they've got to live in squalor and shit in the forest, and now they've got to revel in the pus of Nurgle.
Yeah, I'm happy with the marks. Yeah, honestly, I think it's great. But you're right. It is exciting from a modeling perspective because now you can paint your Beastmen and with crazy tattoos or scores or marks or different colors and have that be legitimate. So I think like from a hobbying perspective, it's exciting. From a game perspective, it certainly makes them better. And Chaos Legion, if you want to do like a mainly Beastman army and just pick a little from the other armies, you can then get it stuff. Like, even though demons become unstable, I'm not sure that a skill cannon or two might not hurt your overall prospects in a mostly Beastman army. Skill cannons generally make everything better.
Yeah.
And they're in the back of the line, hopefully, but if they're hitting something, hopefully they're charging and blowing it up when impact hits.
What do you think of the Blight Kings being added to a Beastman army?
I don't think they need them. I think is what it boils down to. I think that the only really good use for Blight Kings is in a demon's army, so you can get non-magical attacks. I think the Beastmen have plenty of infantry foot sloggers that are pretty good. Like, they're just not they're not lacking for that. We've got Doom Bowl delivery mechanisms that they decided to call Minotaurs. There's Bestigor and Gore running around, and it also makes the ambusher rule a lot better because you don't need the matching unit in the Chaos Legion, right? You can just choose to Beastman ambush.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sexy. Makes those 5-man Ungor Raider units or 10-man Ungor Raider units a lot more attractive.
My last game of Beastmen, I was playing Andy 2D6 against his vampire counts, and 5 Ungor Raiders killed his Vargeist. Brilliant.
What?
He had about 2 wounds left, and I rolled 2 6s to wound. It's beautiful. That was the best thing they've ever done for me.
That is fantastic. That is like Reef's story of the bravest little Ungor that killed a demon prince.
But you know what, guys? People go on about balanced lists and Swedish comps and all this, but look at the world and the world's various armies. It's not a fair fight. War's never fair. And personally, I like being the underdog. I will get a massive sense of achievement by beating an army that's better on the table. That's what it's all about, isn't it? No?
I've got to agree with you. As somebody who picked up Tomb Kings, the original Tomb Kings, right when they came out, and then proceeded to get my teeth kicked down my throat every single game I played, I certainly am empathetic to your position. I would always hope there's at least one army or 2 or 3 we can point to and go, those are weaker choices. That way I can be the underdog playing a crappy army, and I feel really good when I win and have an excuse when I lose. It's the best of all scenarios. Not my fault. I'm playing Beastman. All right. Well, very good. Okay, so that is the good, the bad, and the ugly with Beastmen. If they do end up going, I do hope they stick around in some regard as part of a broader Chaos Force, or perhaps maybe we'll get lucky and they'll get reintroduced, even if they're not there right away.
I just think gaming tournaments and the games masters should just say, Beastmen can have as many points as they want on the table.
Just no limit, just whatever. Just if you have the model, you're allowed to play it. You may bring all Beastmen.
And watch them still lose.
It's just like a field of them. One shot that causes a panic test hits, main unit runs, and it just ripples down the line like a wave. Yeah, I can see it. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to a little Q&A. We don't have many questions, but we'll jump in here. Um, all right, so our first question came to us from Matiram, and it's for Remington Steele.
I don't know what this is.
Yes, indeed. What happened to that Beastman versus Halfling battle report for this scenario I wrote you?
Well, the problem is that I don't have anyone close by to play games with, so I'm stuck with either Universal Battle or setting the table up and playing against myself. So this is what I'm going to have to do because I've put a pledge out there on Google+. If I get 10 or more likes to my post, I will do that battle report, Halflings versus Beastmen, and I will put it up by Friday night, GMT.
All right, everybody, you heard it. Go to Warhammer YouTubers, +1 that post. Let's do it. Let's make Remington Steele play with himself.
But it is awesome. He's done a great scenario where the halflings go hunting, and they go hunting for boar. And instead of boar, they come across a razor gore. And not far behind them is a large band of beastmen. And then so the battle begins.
Very nice. All right, and then the next question ties into our previous discussion, which is for everyone. If the Beastmen were to go away, which units would you like to see saved and combined into the new Chaos Army? Remington, why don't you start?
Which unit would I like to be saved?
They can have new rules, so they don't have to be they don't have to have terrible rules to go with them. Like assuming their point costed well.
Well, the unit in the Beastmen army that's most resembling stuff in Chaos is probably the Bestigor. So I think the Bestigor would probably stay. But that's not the most fun unit at all. The most fun unit would be Minotaurs, I suppose. Minotaurs. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Greek mythology, so things like one-eyed giants, Cygors, and Minotaurs are always going to hit the spot with me.
Agreed. I'm actually on with that fully. Like the Minotaurs and the big guy. Like let's get that Gorgon out there and let's make him awesome. Let's brand that dude with some sweet chaos marks, put some chains on him or something. Probably gonna have skulls hanging off him. He doesn't have enough skulls on him yet, which actually that dude has a lot of skulls on him. But let's get that going. Let's have that dude ripping through Empire stupid state troops, just crushing them left and right like he's just popping Skittles.
Absolutely, and the Cygor, when you first read it, has this wicked rule about striking terror into enemy wizards because it has this mystical eye that sees the magical vortex that the wizards work their stuff in. That spell should be way better than it is, that ability. And perhaps Cygors should negate all magic within 24 hours.
Just no more spellcasting. Constant deadlock.
So, unlimited models on the table, and no magic allowed.
All right. I think we're getting to a rare Beastman win as possible. Tom, what about you?
Honestly, I would love to just see a basic gore carryover. Like something that's a foot troop that is not chaos, like Chaos Knights.
It's not a big dude in armor.
Yeah, like I want a big dude in armor, but throw out the Marauders. Like if you're combining all your forces, throw out the Marauders, your crazy, goofy-looking humans, and Gores in their place, and have them be your lightly armored, hard-hitting. Like have them fill that role. So I think that it has a place in the army. I'm hesitant on like the Cygor or the Gorgon or stuff like that because you're gonna have like bloodthirsters, and you're gonna have big horned things already in some of those places, and so I'm hesitant to I don't know. It's a tough call. That's what I would say.
I mean, Tom, I hear you, but after having painted 50 Gore and nearly topping myself, outboard him in the process, I would never pick that choice. But I can see why you say that.
Fair enough.
Very good.
Fair enough.
All right, let's move on here as we come to the last 10 minutes of the show. Let's do some model reviews since we had some people send in pictures, pulled some stuff from the PMP. Let's take a quick look at some of the work. If you're not familiar with the PMP and you're a Warhammer YouTuber or not, PMP is a Google Plus community, Painters Motivating Painters, founded by Whoopi Womp. Please feel free to email me or reach out to me, and if you're interested in joining, just a community of painters and hobbyists who post up a pledge, work on that over a month, and then share their finished product. And there's a lot of great information, advice, critiques, and just general sharing of wonderful hobbying and painting. So, PMP. So let's take a look here. We'll freeze it up on me, and then we will do that one. Oops. All right, is it sharing? Can you see me? Can you see my screen?
I can see you. Can't see the screen yet, though. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Infinite.
All
right.
More
Do we
gas?
see the two more guests? Yes. Okay, there we go. So this was Ken Baldock submitted this to the PMP. Those are the two more guests. I think those are the. I don't remember which ones those are because I can never keep the two straight. But it's obviously the ones with the halberds. So there you go.
I believe Ken is British, so he gets my thumbs up straight away.
There you go. I like it. I love the look of these guys, and I consistently regret not having any. You're gonna have to. I think I'm just gonna have to pick some up. Like they're really cool models.
Yeah. I love the red. They look a bit like Graveguard. You know, the way Graveguards are painted with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he made them to match in with like an army that had some vampire counts theming to it. So I think you're dead on there.
Well, what I would say is that if the rumors are proving to be correct, those are probably not going anywhere.
Yep.
So you probably don't need to rush, given the new release of them and the spirit look and all the other things that are seeming to point towards their continuation.
That's fair. Well, good stuff. All right, good work, Ken. This was so Kieran Dunlevy was our guest last week on Warhammer Weekly, and we asked him what he was doing with hobbying, and he said, well, not much. And then he decided to get out the airbrush and go to work and make some scenery for his board, and he put together this inn. I'm always a big fan of terrain, and I thought he did a really nice job with this. It's a cool thing to have on your board there.
I love that. The only thing it's missing is maybe a harpy.
Oh, nice.
Coming out of the door or just sort of lurking near the chimney.
Sure.
I think you should have piled some like ale barrels up near the door and have it be the dwarven inn or whatnot, the terrain piece that you roll up.
Nice.
All right, there you go. You heard it here, Kieran. Let's see some barrels. Get some people drunk up in this inn. Here we have two from Matirum, who finished this nice block of Saurus warriors here.
God, he's working fast, isn't he?
That's, it's so funny you say it. A lot of people said that, and he thought these took forever. You turned it around quite quick, and I think they look pretty darn solid. There you go. Another angle on them there.
I would love to have a lizardman army, you know.
They're so bright and colorful, right? I love the blue, the green, the pinkish red, orange of the shield. Yeah.
Yeah, they look brilliant.
Absolutely. Yeah, very good work, Matirum. And by the way, that's good basing. Good work on the base, sir. Let's see. They look finished and wonderful. Base brings it all together. Really, really plays to the green.
I tell you what, guys, I heard someone say it, and I believe it to be true. Basing is maybe 30-40% of the model.
I fully believe that, yeah. It just looks unfinished to me, right? The difference between a based model and an unbased model, when you even just some dirt and grass, it's amazing how far it goes.
Unfortunately, I agree with you.
Yeah. You could have a painted model on a nothing base, and you could have an average painted model on an amazing base, and that average one will stick out a mile.
Absolutely.
It's true.
And it doesn't even need to be that amazing of a base. I've saw, like, just as an example, I've seen some, like, Malifaux figs that people put on, like, wooden planks or cobblestone streets or stuff, right? But it just makes the thing pop because it looks so different. Mm-hmm. So it can be just little touches.
Yep.
All right. Here up we have Mr. Lee Mech Shop and his finished He's finished Vampire.
Wow, them ghosts coming out the cloak look wicked.
He did do a very good job on the color blending on that cloak. I like that. I suspect that's some strong use of the Nilic oxide, which is a super useful technical paint. It's not just for making copper look oxidized. It also is your best friend when you're doing ghosts.
Wow.
Or glowy effects in general. You can, if you're trying to use it, it's exactly the right consistency to drop into lines. So if you're ever trying to do glowy runes, Nilic oxide, can't recommend it enough. Very, very good product.
Just looking at Tom, do you look at his right hand? It's glowing green at the end. With some
I think he's doing like the little. I think that's maybe a little object source from the ring, right?
Right, of course. That was great. That.
Yeah, his signet ring.
I think the only thing that miniature is lacking for me is just a couple of skulls. You know, I know Games Workshop models are covered in skulls, but because he's sort of an undead lord, maybe a skull on the ground or something coming out the ground or something else to signify the undead.
One would expect a little bit more skulls.
Absolutely, spice up that base. Just get a skull or two on there, a little pile of skulls at the vampire's feet. Sounds good to me. Make the base look sexy and bring home the point.
Well, that pearl necklace is really special.
Yeah, he did do a great job with that. You gotta love a good pearl necklace on a vampire. And then obviously I went ahead and put this up. Tom had mentioned finishing up his giant rock monster, and I wanted to share that with everybody how it all came out.
I love this model. This is a Forge World model, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Does it have?
It's beautiful.
Does it have rules?
It does. It does, and it has rules at 2, 4, and 600 point versions. And they're for free. You can download off the Forge World website. Okay. It's a neat model. I was a big fan of it when I saw it, fell in love with it, and I'm doing an all spider like Forest Goblin spider army, and so I'm finding things to fit into that theme that aren't just more orcs, because I'm trying to stay away from orcs, and I'm proxying any orcs that I'm doing, so it ended up being a good fit for that. So.
Wow. Love it.
Yeah. So it came out nice. Vince helped out quite a bit on both pinning it because it was heavy, and he helped out with some of the basing. So
you could absolutely kill a man with that model. Let me just say that.
But is it plastic then?
It's like resin cast, so but it's not the normal resin. It's super heavy. It is it's as though I have felt bowling balls that weighed less than this mini.
Wow, I've not seen one of those in that pose either.
I think all of them are in that pose. Or something very close. So.
It's interesting you put a dwarf there because before the dwarf book come out, I heard loads of rumours that the dwarves would awaken these sort of stone or mechanical giants that would protect their stronghold. It didn't come about.
No, that's not how it's working here. He clearly got tied up by a spider rider, and then that goblin ran away quickly, while the dwarf has no idea what's going to hit him.
I love that model. That's brilliant, man.
And that is the end of that. So, with that being said, let's jump back over here. Stop our screen sharing. Take it off locked on me. All right, and just some final notes here as we're signing off. We had some comments. Caleb Goodson said that he doesn't want any filthy elves in his glorious human army. Well, my hope is that the tent will be big enough that we can still have our individual forces and aren't compulsed to mix the races if we don't want to. So what I hear you saying, Caleb, is it sounds like you're pushing for segregation, and I thought we dealt with that already back in the '60s. That's not cool, man. That's not cool.
Caleb, if it makes you feel any better, the filthy elves don't want to group with you either.
He's also seconding on the Jabberslith that it's a beautiful model, but rules not up to it. And he said he'd like to see the Gores and their chariots, which they do have good chariots. Matiram also had made a comment back when we had done it that he believes firmly in the power of Ungor Raiders, which I understand. If you've watched his battle reports, you know they often give him some serious trouble. And he also hopes that special characters don't become too much of a focus. And I would certainly agree with that. I think special characters are important to the fluff and the story of the world, and I like the ability to have them there. But I would never want to see them be more compulsory in any way. And being able to build your own hero and construct your own sort of guy and story and character, I think is very important. So I think that I agree with you, Mitt, completely on that one. You have to be able to retain that construction capability to forge your own story.
Definitely. I mean, I know Materium wants to create a Noblar hero.
Absolutely. I made him the Noblars 3 there. I Muppet Man, I believe in it. I believe absolutely. I believe in the Noblar hero as much as I believe there should be a Ushabti hero. That's what I'm saying. That's what Tomb Kings are missing. They're missing a Ushabti hero.
For the Noblars to survive, they must have had some heroes. They must have had some special Noblars that saved them from the maws of the ogres.
One would think that there would be at least one smart one who could raise up to at least the level of hero. Be like if goblins can get to lords and heroes, you're telling me a Noblar can at least slightly get lucky enough to escalate one level?
I've got an idea for one. It's a Noblar that's had one of his arms bitten off, and the ogre that bit his arm off realised that he tasted so bad. So he's called the shit Noblar.
Nice. One arm.
He's indestructible.
He's gone through the fire and now he has survived. I like it.
He must have a weakness. I don't know what the weakness is yet though. Maybe he's got
one arm. All right. Well, we've been going for an hour, and so that brings us to the end of another episode of Warhammer Weekly. The time has just flown by, and at the end, we will. Yeah, absolutely. We will, as we promised. Tom, would you like to open your envelope?
Go on, Tom. Show it 3 ways.
Drum roll.
Okay, here we go, people.
That is the slowest envelope opening I've ever seen.
Womp, womp, womp.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh.
No
Sadly,
golden ticket for you.
Just
There we go. As promised.
Damn you.
What was it that you bought from Games Workshop to get that?
That's a great question. I
Well,
bought
at the end of the show. Don't take too long to answer it.
Mordheim basing terrain that I'm going to throw onto my swamp bases. Some little grass stuffs. I picked up a box of Shadow Warriors.
Nice.
I have the bits to get both a group of 10 Shadow Warriors and a group of 10 Sisters out of this, so I'm excited about that. And I topped it off with some Carrodsburg Crimson Wash. So, ta-da! $67.
There you go, just over the mark. All right, well, we've gone a little over time, and I don't want to interrupt Narrations and Lamentations. If you're watching us, please do head over there and watch Materium's show, Narrations and Lamentations, on his channel. And I want to say special thanks to Remington. Thank you so much for staying up till 3 a.m. It was awesome hanging with you.
Thanks, guys. Loved it. I loved every second of it, and I hope to come back one day.
Sir, you are welcome back anytime. Let me say that. We will do a special show anytime just to get the one, the only, the rock star himself, Remington Steele. That is right.
God bless.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. And as always, see you next Wednesday.